There are certain things that I keep in my Jeep Wrangler JKU at all times, and in this video, we're going to talk about it. So my Jeep Wrangler is not my daily driver, it is my off-roader. These are just the things I keep in my vehicle at all times, just in case of emergency, because you never know what's going to happen out on the trail or when you're just driving around town. So probably the most important thing I keep in my Jeep is just a simple first aid kit. This is a kit from Eco Safety. It is a very basic kit. Open this kit up, it's zippered. It has several pockets. Over here we have insect protectant cream, lip balm, first aid burn cream, sting relief, first aid guides, first aid quick and cleans. It's got gloves in here, poison ivy, an oak and sumac cleaner, a cold compress, bandages, just a very, very basic first aid kit. So besides a first aid kit, what does everyone else need to have in their vehicle? And I believe everyone should have one of these, a basic fire extinguisher. This is just a, your standard fire extinguisher. You can buy these anywhere, Walmart, Meijer, pretty much any store. It is a good idea to check the charge on these every once in a while, like every 6 months or so, and just make sure you're still in the green charged area. So what happens if you're out on the trail or out on the road and you get a flat tire? I got a Jeep that's lifted 4 inches on 38-inch tires. A stock jack is not going to cut it. So I do carry with me a high lift jack, which is this bad boy right here. Luckily, knock on wood, I've yet to have to use this thing. Obviously you can use it to lift up your vehicle. You can also use it as a come along as well if you didn't have a winch. But yeah, everyone needs just a good way to get a vehicle off the ground so they can change a tire out. So what good is a jack if you don't have one of these? And that's just a way to get your tire off. My tires have the special key that go to it as well, so obviously you got to carry that with the vehicle as well. But a good tire iron should always be kept in your vehicle as well. Since we're on the topic of tires, what if you're out on the trail, you get a flat tire, you switch out your tire, and you get a second flat tire? Probably really low likelihood that that's actually going to happen. Some people just run without a spare tire even. If you do that, I do recommend having one of these. This is a tire repair kit. This is from a company called Boulder Tools. I got this as a Christmas gift a couple years back. Knock on wood, I've yet to have to use this as well, but it's just one of those things that I'm going to be really happy that I have in my vehicle if I happen to get a flat tire or a secondary flat tire, or if someone else needs to use this kit as well. Speaking of tires, again, I also keep one of these in there. This is just a standard Pro Lift jack stand. If I'm swapping out a tire, having the high lift jack is great to get the tire up off the ground. However, just peace of mind, just throw a jack stand underneath there. It doesn't take up that much room in the back of the vehicle, and it's just good safety when you're swapping out that tire. Next thing I'm going to talk about here is this here. It is the Easy Flat system. What this is, it is a quick way to deflate and inflate your tires. This is a system that has 4 connectors to it, so you can actually connect all 4 of your tires at the same time. And then once you have them all connected, you can just flip this switch here and it'll let air out of all 4 tires at the same time. And then when you're done wheeling at the end of the day, when you're just hook all these back up to each individual tire. And then if you have an internal air compressor, an onboard air compressor, which I have an ARB one underneath the hood here, you just hook all 4 tires back up, plug this into your air compressor, and then open it up and then turn your air compressor on. And then it'll start inflating all 4 tires at the same time. It should inflate evenly as well. This has been making airing up after off-roading a lot faster, a lot more convenient, and it sure beats the heck out of my old compressor that I had to do 1 tire at a time and it would take me forever. Next thing I keep in the back of this Jeep here is this Ditch Pig Kinetic Rope recovery rope. It is 20 feet long. It's rated for 24,700 pounds. Essentially what this is, it's a rope that if you're stuck in deep mud, it is more beneficial to use a kinetic rope as opposed to just a regular strap. This has essentially a bungee. It acts in the way of a bungee. So it's kinetic, so when you pull on it, it's gonna, you know, bounce, or it's gonna stretch, as opposed to just kind of have that snapping action, like in, you know, a regular tow strap would. Regular tow straps are made for just that, towing a vehicle out of some place, but not when they're stuck. If someone's stuck, you should be really using a kinetic rope. All right, so if you don't have anyone to pull you out with your kinetic rope, the next thing I would suggest is having a winch and a tree saver. So a tree saver is essentially just a regular strap that is much shorter. You just hook this around your tree of choice. That way you can hook your winch line right to both ends here, and then just start winching yourself forward. This is essentially doing exactly what it says it's doing. It's saving the tree, it's saving the bark. That way you're not putting that winch line right up against the tree and cutting into the tree with that. This is just more of a wider angle on the tree, so it's just going to be able to, you know, pull a lot more even and save the tree. Speaking of winches, I also keep a snatch block in my Jeep. Knock on wood as well, I've never had to use this quite yet. You know, my winch is a 12K winch, so it's been more than enough to pull me out of every situation I've needed it in. But what's great about a snatch block is you can actually double your pulling power with a snatch block. So you can run your winch line out to the tree or whatever that you're winching off from, and then loop it around this, and then loop it back to the other side of your vehicle. That way it's pulling both ways essentially. So like I said, I've never had to use the snatch block yet, knock on wood. Hopefully I never have to, but this is a great tool to keep in your bag. It doesn't take up much space. Good peace of mind if you need that extra pulling power. Next thing I keep in the Jeep is a big bag of tools. So in here I have an assortment of tools. I'm just going to show you a couple things here. This is just your standard set of wrenches. This company is called Duratech. It goes from 8mm all the way to 19mm up in here. And then I do keep just an adjustable one in here as well. That way you could throw it on a bolt, and then if you're, like, say if you're trying to get a nut out, you want something else on the other end of it, especially if they're the same size, you need something that's going to be adjustable. I keep an extra U-joint from Spicer in there as well. U-joints are a common thing to go bad. Mine are 1350s, so that's what I have here is a 1350. Gloves, always have gloves. Ratchet straps, I usually keep a couple of ratchet straps in my vehicle. These can be used for multiple different things. Obviously you can tie things down with it, but an example is a couple of years ago I was in Windrock in the TJ and my upper control arm completely sheared off the axle. We had to get back down the mountain, so we just took a bunch of ratchet straps and we ratchet strapped the control arm to the axle itself, and it held all the way down the mountain. So like I said, there's multiple uses you can have for a ratchet strap. This is an assortment of different heads for a screwdriver. I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but, you know, good thing to have. I'm going to start pulling stuff out. Wrench, hammer, zip ties. You always need zip ties. Sockets, Allen wrenches, safety goggles, scissors, needle nose pliers, clamps, ratcheting socket, flashlight, tape measure. I'm not really sure why that's in there, but sure, it's in there. Extra D-ring. Just a tarp that you can throw down on the ground if, you know, you're on the ground working on something. That way you're not getting all messy, especially if you're working in the mud. There's a couple other odds and ends in here as well, but that's the majority of it. I also keep just a handheld axe in there as well. If you're out camping and you need to chop up some firewood, this is just a small one. I do keep a bigger one of my Gladiators because my Gladiator is more my camp vehicle. And there's also a saw in the back of this as well. You just pop that down and there's that right there. So good for camping. Also keep a shovel in there, just a small one. Don't really use a shovel a whole lot. I suppose if you do get stuck, like say if you're in deep snow or whatever, you need to, you know, unbury yourself. You can use it for that. You can use it for putting out campfires, digging a hole to go number 2, multiple different uses for a shovel. I do keep extra clothes in the back of the Jeep as well, and by clothes I mean just a jacket. So this is my old military jacket. It's that waterproof material. I also keep, you know, a hat in there, some gloves, basically cold weather gear. You know, if you're out in the middle of nowhere and, you know, you're caught, if you're stuck and you just want to stay warm, this is going to help keep you warm. This here is something else I just keep in the back of the Jeep. It's basically just something that you could throw down on the ground if you're working on the Jeep, similar to the tarp. I also have a map book. This is the ORV Trail Maps of Michigan 2021 edition. It's from, looks like vvmapping.com. This is just basically all the ORV routes that are in the state of Michigan. You know, I don't use it too often just because I use my phone for a lot of mapping stuff. However, this is just good to have a backup, just in case you're someplace that you don't have any cell phone service and you need to find out where you are or where you need to go. Another thing that I keep in my Jeep is communications. This is the one I just keep in as a backup. This is a GMRS, kind of a walkie-talkie Midland extra talk radio. In my JKU, I do have a GMRS radio and a CB radio hardwired in, and those are my main forms of communication. However, I just keep an extra one of these just because every once in a while you're out on the trail with someone that does not have a radio. You can just hand them this, that way they can communicate with you. I also keep a flag underneath the back seat, just because there are some parks in Michigan that do require flags in their ORV parks, Sand Lake being one of them. Not a whole lot of them require it. However, I just keep it back there. You know, I would hate to get to a park 2-3 hours away from home, find out I need a flag, know I got 2 or 3 flags at home, and have to buy another one. So I just keep this one in the back of the Jeep. And last but not least, I do have a superchips device for my Jeep. This is basically a device that you can plug into your OBD2 port and it talks to your computer in the Jeep. You can change different things with this. You can change your tire size, your gear ratio, speedometer. There's several different uses for a superchips device. You know, it's one of those things that if I didn't have this, I would have to take my Jeep into a dealership every single time I wanted to change something. So this was well worth a couple $100s to get it. I believe that's everything that I have in my Jeep. I'm probably missing a couple things here or there, but for the most part, that's everything that I have in the back of my Jeep. And like I said, I keep this stuff in there because it's going to aid in recovery. If someone gets injured, you know, we'll have first aid. If there's a fire, we have a fire extinguisher. Flat tire, we could take care of that. Like I said, these are all things that I believe every off-roader and for the most part anyone out on the road should have in their vehicle. Alright, so that's about it. Is there anything I missed? Is there anything that you're running in your Jeep all the time? Is there anything I should add to my list? With that said, certain trips I'm going to add stuff into the vehicle, I'll take some stuff out, but for the most part this is the stuff that's always in my vehicle at all times.